let me welcome you to the second edition of the Maintenance Analytics Summit here in Stockholm. It's a pleasure having you with us and Aker BP presenting today. Please tell us more about yourself, your background, before we continue further.
Thanks for having me for the interview here. I'm a senior reliability engineer and a contract manager for condition monitoring services in Aker BP for rotating equipment. And at the same time, for the last 1.5 years, I have been resourced out to a digitalization lab called Eureka, in which I'm leading a squad.
Awesome. So, Saurabh, your talk today is on moving towards predictive maintenance with an agile approach. Can you tell us more about this agile lab that you established at Aker BP to enhance digitalization? More like a short recap of the talk for our viewers.
Yeah. Agile approach is the approach which has been talked about a lot in the conference. So we started with a use case on digitalization a couple of years ago, and we identified a use case. We handed it over to a California-based company, which was very good in modeling. And then we received the model after they did the analysis. But the end users who were going to use it were not involved from the beginning, and it didn't help. So it was a failure from our side. And that's the thing which we learned from this failure. And we opened the Agile digitalization lab called Eureka within Aker BP. We started with around 4 or 5 teams, which and each team had a few squads. So it's a kind of a sub team within each squad, and we co-located people from different disciplines. So the domain experts, the end users were coming from our company, Aker BP, and then we had data scientists coming from our partners. Then it was software engineers, software architects, web UX developers, and all that. So because we realized that until and unless we involve this thing, the thing which Henrik was talking today in the morning, that you need to mix both the different kinds of competencies. If you don't mix it, you won't get a result which will work in real life situations. And that's why we had this agile approach. In this one, we have broken down the teams, which we call crew, into squads, and each of these squads are having morning stand-ups every day. So we know what has been done one day before, what is going to be done today, and then we have demos, both internal and external demos. So internal demos are within the whole Eureka team, and external demos are involving the greater part of operations from Aker BP. So we invite them every second week to look into our incremental development of the use case, which we call MVPs, minimum viable products. And that's how we are building this whole thing. We have a more detailed description of how we are working in an agile environment, which we will present shortly.
Awesome. You will agree, Saurabh, that one of the, let's say, the most hurting part to convince the management to invest in these activities is, of course, the cost, which is, in these cases, it's a bit greater. But are the benefits of implementing predictive maintenance greater than its cost?
Yes, definitely. And for oil and gas industry, we see the return on investment pretty quickly, because let's take an example of a pump on an unmanned platform. I'm going to present that use case today as well. So that pump is production critical, and if the pump stops for one day, we have a production loss of around 2.5 million NOK, Norwegian crowns. So if we take for the whole year and say the pump has a downtime of around 30 days in the whole year, it's like 75 million NOK we are talking here. And to invest in predictive maintenance, in doing analytics, if we spend around a couple of millions, it's worth it. And if we are able to save around, let's say, not 75 million, but around 10 million or 15 million, that's justifies the whole development towards it.
So how do you evolve and change actually the mindset of these teams of technicians so they can migrate from corrective to predictive maintenance, considering the fact that in most of the cases they are not used, first of all, to work with high amounts of data?
Yeah, the industry is transforming, and I think that's why we have implemented the Agile approach, in which we are co-locating both the data scientists and the end users. These end users are first-line engineers. They may be process engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and offshore technicians. So we have resourced out them for let's say around 3 months, 4 months time to be a part of Eureka. And they get involved from the beginning, and they are giving the feedback. So the involvement is the key. When they are involved, they feel the pride that they are giving important feedback, and then they take this whole thing to the operations organization, and then they are the real ambassadors of implementing these use cases in the operational environment. So we have done some few use cases last year, and this year we are soon getting these use cases finished in June. So the implementation and handover process is going on, and some of the pilots are already running. So I think we will see how well this goes, but fingers crossed.
Of course, when there is effort, continuous efforts, of course, success won't be absent. One last question, Saurabh. Everything is changing, of course, but your comments for the prediction in this field in the near future?
Yeah, as I'm the contract manager for condition monitoring services, there are different suppliers I'm dealing with related to predictive maintenance, condition monitoring, and preventive maintenance. So what are the things which we see is that if we provide, if they provide offline monitoring and online monitoring or predictive analytics, if they are able to change with the way we are progressing towards predictive analytics, they are still in business. But if they are resistant to that change and they just want to carry on doing offline monitoring, we can't wait for them. So we have to leave them behind, and we have to move forward. We have around 250,000 sensors on our assets in Aker BP, and we are collecting around 4 trillion data points. So it's huge number of a huge amount of data which we have, and we want to utilize it to do further analytics. Those suppliers who are coming along with us and joining hands, we appreciate that, and we want them to be in pace with us, be our partners. But those who are falling behind, we have to move forward.
Exactly.
And I think that's the future.
Exactly. Yeah. Saurabh, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thank you for being with us, presenting, and for conducting this interview.
Thanks a lot for having me. Yeah.